Good morning and welcome to yet another episode of the Ridiculously Early J Morning Show. My name is Michael and I am your host. And today we are talking about continuing to work on a REPL for J, a very colorful and hopefully fun to use REPL, read eval print loop for the J programming language, which you can see as this component here. This is embedded inside of a presentation tool that I am working on for making videos about programming. And what I started to work on yesterday was extracting this object, or rather working on refining the idea of a component object, a widget that contains more than one little subwidget. The entire application works that way at the moment, but I don't have an idea of a widget here. And so this is going to be composed of the history and then a line for editing the text, which is itself composed of both a syntax highlighting component and a simple editor component, a simple line editor component. Yesterday, we did a little bit of a live stream after the show. I call it J office hours, and I didn't get terribly much done. I had a lot to do with the family and whatnot, but I did make some small changes, mostly involved with starting to consolidate these runaway objects here. We've got these very large chunks of code that are defining what are the widgets in my application. Ideally, this is going to eventually become some kind of table-driven mini language where I can just say, on one line what each widget is, what its coordinates are, and how it's composed. And what I've done so far is I've made this idea of a UI REPL. So each of the UI is just the prefix for the widgets, and REPL is the read eval print loop widget that is going to appear up here, or what currently appears up here. So it's a bit of a messed up state right now. The input is at the very top. But the intent is that this will very quickly become a normal looking REPL, just very nice and pretty. So that's what I'm working on right now. I did have one kind of interesting thing. So actually in the repl.ijs directory, and by the way, this is all for those of you joining in for the first time who are interested, this is all stored in GitHub on tangentstorm/jpres. The main REPL widget is currently in repl.ijs. And what I did yesterday was kind of neat. Something I've been curious to do for a long time. I want this to be both this file to function both as a component or a widget that you can import, but also as a standalone program. And so in Python, you have this idea of being able to run a module as a standalone program. And I wanted to do something similar to that for J. So we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out a way to do that. It's not perfect, but since the name of this file is repl.ijs, we have a function at the bottom that is a single verb, and then we simply say if repl is this right here is kind of a J idiom for starts with. So if repl is if the first argument, so this says so drop the first argument, take the next argument. So if the second argument of the command line happens to be unboxed, and this is end with, so it starts with under reverse, so ends with repl, then go ahead and run this function. So it's not perfect. It's not the greatest way to do it. I actually thought it would be kind of cool to be able to, my first attempt was to trigger the debugger and inspect the stack and see if I was inside the load operation. But it turns out that the debugger cannot see that it's inside the load operation unless you were in the debugger before you started the load operation. So that's a thing I learned about J yesterday. And so this is my attempt at writing if name equals main, in Python, or the run this as a standalone application. So we can try running that. I imagine it's not going to work so well right now, but J hello. Don't know why that wasn't typing, but yeah, okay. So it did run as a standalone application. And so now we're going to get into the kind of the weeds of moving the history into this application. So definitely a REPL needs a history, or at least that needs to be on the screen. And since my widget framework expects to draw the entire screen, I need to somehow store the history. And further, the one feature of this REPL is that it provides an undo capability, so you can actually retract what you just typed in if you don't like it. Provided it doesn't modify files or something like that, you can undo assignments and things like that. So let's see. I kind of just want to jump right into the code and get started here. So where we kind of left off is, there were previously several little, I kind of duplicated the notion of the token editor and the the same setup I had in this application I had in the repl.ijs. So that was previously a standalone script where we had a application with this editor, which is a plain line editor that knows nothing about J, and then toked, which is a kind of experimental token-based editor. We're not actually using it for anything except syntax highlighting. So we're rendering the syntax highlighted version of the code while using the line editor to edit the actual string. So a little bit of a kludge there, but in a way it makes sense to me because this gives me the ability to write simple strings, and we kind of have a separation of concerns here. We don't have to you don't have to sully the that's not the right word, but you don't have to pollute the you don't have to mix the concerns of drawing the separation of the syntax highlighting inside the simple field. So that's where we're at. And then so when we render it, we try to render with the syntax highlighting, and then there's situations where that might fail. For example, if you have a missing end quote or something like that. So just in case if that fails, we just render the plain old string. And then the intent is that this is when this is a keyboard handler, so that the control key for M, so the enter key is pressed. We run this accept method on ourselves, which clears out the buffer and then actually executes the sentence. So B is the buffer for the editor, and then so we execute that using this worlds concept that allows us to do undoing. And if you've missed all that's actually explained in Friday's episode. I think it was must have been episode number 5. And you can catch that on YouTube. I talk about it for an hour, so I'm not going to repeat all that here, but feel free to ask questions in the chat room. I see we got 3 viewers here, so good morning, everyone. And here we go. All right, so what I've done so far, basically this started out as a copy, and now I have created this UI REPL widget, which is meant to be standalone. So then what I did, and I think this is what we will see in the, if I zoom this out a little bit, you see that I've gone through in MJE, in the actual application, the editor application. I renamed this little variable because I was confused about what it was doing. So this is the outline world list. Every line of the or every in my outline, every time there's a line that starts with one of these, that indicates that it's a colon. It indicates that it's a line that's going to appear in the REPL. And so there are also lines in between those. And so for every one of these, we have a mapping to a world in the concept in the REPL concept, where we're able to undo and move back and forth and see what was the state of the interpreter, including the number of lines on the screen and so on. So that's what that list is. And then the idea is that this is probably, let's see. Then I removed some of the, I had that exact same setup of a token editor and a simple editor on in this application, and so now now that we have this ability to import the REPL as a widget and not run it as a standalone application, then I have now imported it and created this. And so now those two variables are still being manipulated in ways that they probably shouldn't be. So I still have references to them, but they are now pointing, instead of standalone objects, they're now pointing to repl itself, so the repl widget itself. And then in the application, somewhere down here, where we give it the list of widgets that we want to include in our display, we now only have, or I removed TED and red from here, so the repl editor and the token editor are now part of repl, and so the next step is to move hist into there. So hist is the history. It's the echo, everything that should be on the screen at that point in time. And of course it grows as you enter every word and every command into the repl. So that needs to be part of the repl itself. And so I'm going to look through here and find every place where we refer to hist. So ehist world is the echo history in the world namespace. So that's actually something managed by the worlds.ijs in the repository, which is the actual execution engine, this is the echo history. So it maintains that for us. But what the widget needs to maintain is a concept of how much of that to display as we undo and redo work. So that is what this is doing here. This is actually happening in the open command. So this is as soon as I open the screenplay. So as it's reading the screenplay for my next video, it's generating all these steps, and so it's executing everything all at once. And of course, in the standalone version, we want it to execute as you type commands in. And in fact, that's how the authoring is going to work. So you'll be able to click here or hopefully click here and be able to set the focus here and be able to type in here, and then it will actually update the outline here. So you'll actually be able to add to the screenplay by just typing things in the repl, and then go back and annotate what you've typed, and it will record your actual keystrokes and whatnot and the timing thereof. So that's the plan, but we're not quite there yet. So all the code is working. I just got to get it into the right pieces, and part of the trouble is this notion of a compound widget. So we're kind of pushing the envelope of how that works right now. But let's just see. Okay, so hist. So hist is actually this widget right here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move. Well, okay, it's just a UI widget. It's just a plain old widget. So it doesn't. Right now, it doesn't even have any notion of state or anything, as far as I can tell. Let's see, hist. It's just a plain old widget, which is just something. So all I did was add a render hist. Okay. So all it has is a render method, and it's only on this one object. It's not a class. But it does have. So let's see what it's doing. It has a pretty tight coupling to this, to the application here. I think that what I want to do is I just want to move this completely. First of all, anywhere that. Oh, okay. So because it's already in a namespace here. So this is like saying. I have an instance of a UI widget called hist, and now I want to make a new member of that object called render, and that happens to be a verb, so I'm making a new method here. So when this runs, it's going to execute in hist's namespace, and it does not have any kind of knowledge of the application. So everything in here where I'm actually referring to like base, that's this main running application. And I think that means that it will be absolutely safe to take this and move it to repl.ijs. It'll be safe for running it in this application. So I can take this, and I guess the idea that, okay, so hist lines base is this one function, right? So it ought to be, let me just triple check this. So hist All right, so this is going to be a REPL rather than I'm going to, when I change the, so going to a slide, when I change that, it's going to be the REPL. So REPL, REPL, REPL. So anywhere I have that, anywhere I have hist, I should be able to replace it with just the REPL object. And I think I can just make this go away. This can just completely disappear. And now where I say render hist, I'm going to put a flag on this. I'm just a feature flag on here because obviously if I run this as a standalone application, it's not going to have all of these things. So this is going to be I'm going to say if embedded do, and this is MJE, so MJE specific features. This is just a step so that I don't break the standalone REPL by introducing dependencies on things that don't exist. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in repl.ijs in the render function. So embedded, and then we're going to say embedded equals false. Or I'll call this, well, first of all, false is not the right word. It's 0, and then I'll call it MJE because it's really just MJE for now. MJE and macro record and F4. Okay. I guess I could have just hit tab to indent this, but whatever. Okay, and then when we make this REPL, we're going to say MJE of REPL is equal to 1. And so that should allow us to run this without any breakage. Yes, okay, so that worked. And then when we run this, if we reload, we should also get the same thing. Okay, so interestingly, it is not showing the content. Okay, so let's see why. Oh, because, hang on. We still have this idea of history, and history is kind of lying around from the last time we loaded. So I actually have to wipe out that whole, restart the interpreter, I think. Okay. Interesting. So it's not showing up. Let's figure out why. If MJE, so when we created MJ equals 0, REPL, MJE of REPL equals 1, so I would expect that to be the case, right? Oh, sorry. MJE of REPL is 1. Render of REPL. Oh, I know why, because I told it was only one character tall. So yeah, so right here. So it probably very well did draw that, but we didn't see it because it was only that one character at the one line at the top. All right, so now, nope, didn't change anything. Height of REPL is hist x hist 0. if mje. Well, so here we're doing this thing. Okay, so I think I'm not sure why this is working, where this is broken, but I'm gonna just keep cleaning things up until it starts working. So red. All right. Let's see. I do need to keep that because I don't yet have a way to redirect the key to tell the event loop what the currently focused widget is. So I've got a very clunky thing working here right now. So I need to keep a reference to red. I don't think I need TED. TED can go away. That's unimportant. So we never refer to TED again, so that can go away. Now in repl, since red of base is pointing to the red of or ed of repl, we could say red means ed, and then TED is already a member of this function. Okay, and then so wherever we say red, let's just change it to ed. All right, so we don't need this line anymore. To me, that sure looks like it's. Like I feel like I've done everything I need to do here. So what's wrong? Why do I get no output? repl is number 13. XY of repl is 72.0, which is probably somewhere around the middle of the screen. Let's see, get height width. So if the width is 147, yeah, then 72 is about a little bit halfway, so that's about right. At 0, the width or the height of repl is 24. The width of repl is 74. That seems reasonable. repl is visible. It does not need a refresh, but maybe that's my problem. I don't think so. This is the problem with writing messy code in the first place. All right, so I expected this to be a refactoring, meaning no changes should have happened to the semantics. Let's see, hang on. Possible I have a clear screen in there? No. It is possible that one of these has a clear screen in it because they were both using they were both being rendered to the full screen through the terminal. But I think I cleaned it up in edit, so let's try toke. Oops. Nope. Wow. Toke.ijs. Render, and there we go, clear screen. All right, so we don't need a clear screen inside of a render anymore because we're getting a fresh canvas to work with, a fresh buffer to work with. So that seems to have not affected the... Actually, hang on. I remember seeing, yeah, okay, yesterday when I did that, you notice how it turns like kind of a light gray. That's the color of the plain old REPL because it's not drawing the token editor. So that's good. Yesterday when I did that, it'd make the whole screen gray. So I think that removing that clear screen has fixed that problem as well, because it does try to render with the token editor. Although now that I say that, maybe that doesn't really stand up to scrutiny. But let's do this. There we go. So now we have the content of the REPL. We have the actual commands of the REPL, and they're not in the right place. They're still being drawn down here. We're not doing positioning right, but that is because, as I said, every widget expects to be drawing itself in the at coordinate 0, 0 on a blank canvas, and now we have all of these. We have this, the thing drawing their history. It works that way because it's just a standalone widget. But then we're embedding these two other widgets. So what I need is a way to draw subwidgets. And that needs to be part of the framework itself. So that needs to be I have a couple options. One is I can actually make a component widget that works generically and have this idea of like every widget or every maybe component is a subclass of widget that has children. So a component is a composite widget, and then it just automatically draws all its children. Or so that would be refactoring app into doing something like that. Or I could have the idea that we create a buffer on the fly, give it to a widget, like just have a single method that says render subwidget. Or in the render, every widget already knows how to render itself. So maybe right now render takes a flag that says whether or not it has the highlight, whether or not it has the focus. I wonder if I mean, what needs to happen is exactly what's happening inside of app. We create a well, hang on though, because so for the most part, widgets know how to render themselves, and they render themselves using the commands that are available inside of the video buffers inside of the terminal. So if we look in jkvm vid, half an hour, okay. If we're doing that, we have all these commands, all right, and they're dispatched to the current terminal. But there is a command that video buffers have that the terminal itself does not have. VT does not have. So VT is when you render directly to the terminal with ANSI escape codes. But it could have this. It doesn't have this, but it could have it. And it has something very much like it. And that is blit. So blit stamp Y onto self at XY. So you would say blit self. You would just say blit term, coordinates blit term, and then the widget. So So what needs to happen is you need to create basically what app does already. You need to create this widget. You need to create the buffer, the size and shape of the current widget, render it to that buffer, and then blit it to the terminal, to whatever the current terminal in the stack is. And if you did that right now, so and then you want to dispose of the buffer. So I don't want. So right now the app uses one buffer and just resizes it as it goes along. And so every time it does that, it's not like you're gaining anything by reusing the same one, because every time it resizes, there's some kind of garbage collection event going on. So I think maybe maybe I leave the verb render that just says, okay, here's how I draw myself, but then actually have another verb that creates the canvas, draws to the canvas, and then blits to the current terminal. So if I do that, that's going to work fine, except I really ought to have what am I trying to say? I suppose what I would want is to have some way of doing that to the normal canvas, and I do. So okay, so that's actually easy, because I have a standalone verb called render that will render one of these buffers. So blit to the terminal is done. It just doesn't have a name yet, or it has a different name. So let's do that. I'm going to write down what I just said so that I can mark it off my list in a few minutes. I think this is easy. I'm sure we'll find out why it's not, but right now I think it's easy. All right, so instead of this, allow widgets to blit themselves, to draw and blit themselves. To current terminal. So that means, is this part of extracting the repl widget? Yes, so implement some kind of compound widget to implement solution for composite widgets. And I think the answer is, rather than doing this, rather than other option, is to make a UI component. I might do this later at some point, but it can build on what I'm doing now. Oops. So this is really a composite widget. This kind of is the case now, but it like whatever, it's really saying use this solution. So we've already done this. Do I still have this in my paste buffer? No. Okay, whatever I was going to say. Oh yeah, that's it. All right. So I think the option to do this is to allow widgets to split themselves to the current terminal, and then that way. In addition to having just a list of objects and passing around a canvas, we can just say, no, that might be an option too, but this is just a separate way of doing it. We just say blit yourself to the current terminal. Okay, at coordinates, which all we need to do is, so I think maybe this is someday. Maybe someday. Let's put this in question marks. I think there's still a use for this, because right now I'm going to basically explicitly tell, I'm going to enable this ability and then explicitly tell the token editor to blit itself, or the text editor to blit itself, or the line editor to blit itself. Blit meaning stamp, to draw itself, but on a video buffer at a coordinate. Meaning create your own video buffer and then stamp that video buffer onto the other video buffer. So I think I'm going to do that, but that's going to require explicit function calls. And then in the future, maybe this can just be part of the framework, and we use it with, just have a list of children, and auto provide the ability to draw all of them without extra code. And this would be, probably can factor this out of app.ijs, of UI app.ijs. All right, so this is something that I will do later. This is my original idea. I still think it's a good idea. But is that a larger change? No, that's really more of a small change. Where did my list of small changes go? Right there. Okay. So that will be a small change that I will do in the future. Whereas right now, I just will make the ability to allow widgets to draw and blit themselves to current terminal. And in fact, I'm not even going to implement this for now. I'm just going to say implement blit for VT. No thanks. I do not want to become followers, so can I block this person? No. I don't know how to block that person, but go away, person. Implement blit for VT. You know what? I'm going to do this today. I hate the fact, I'm just going to do this. So let's do this. It's already halfway done. It's easy, so let's do it. All right. So still got 20 minutes. All right. I think I can do this. In UI.ij, nope. In vid.ijs, I have this dispatch idea at the top, and I'm going to say blit. Blit is to blit a buffer onto the terminal. So this is actually a dyad, and it's blit to term y. And I think Go x, y, x. Yeah, so this already works. So this is actually what I want. This is exactly what I want. And so blit to the terminal. Blit equals render. In fact, I'm going to call this render equals blit, and then MB to get rid of this. To get rid of this, and then call this blit. And render is in here, so blit. Yeah, so here's blit. This was a demo, but I'm almost tempted to say this probably I can just get rid of it right now. CJKVM. Everything has a render, but which is why I want to change the name. So I got to update the README with the example. So render blit blit blit. That's what I'm doing right now. This is done already. This is done. This is done already. All the stuff's done. I'm sure there's more work to be done, but okay. So we got README, and then I also need to. I have a changelog here. There's going to be a lot of changes here, but version 0.05 or version whatever on whatever date. One of the things I've done now is render became blit. That was a breaking change, and then added a bunch of stuff. Added a bunch of widgets, and added term stack, whatever. I don't need to type all this right now. Added term stack. Why is it? Oh, it's stupid. Added handler for alt keys, or whatever, etc. Bunch of stuff, etc. So I'll fill that in later when I get closer to making a release. All right, so back to looking for the word render. Render update, this is all UI stuff. Render cursor, that's UI stuff. UI stuff. Blit render to VT. I'm gonna actually call that blit vid. Render to VT, so blit to VT. Oh, hang on. Wait, what? Put SVT. Yes, so this is to VT, and then I will have another version of this, which is the actual. Well, I already have another version of this called blit, and let's just make sure that that works. So we're had another version of blit. Nope, blit. Yes, so and it's right that they're in different namespaces. This is the exact same arguments, and so now we just have to add. They're the same arguments, but therefore dealing when the target is a. This is done, so I believe this works. And then, hang on, but somewhere in here we should. I must have been calling that, right? I was not calling that, and that is because this is an unconditional write to the screen, whereas in app, I have two buffers and I do a conditional write. Okay, so we're good. So this is not actually called, but I think, so I should run the demo just to make sure. So J, load, tangent, storm, J, it's actually this directory, so I could just say JKVM, VT, no, not VT. Is there a demo for vid? Yeah, so vid, and then demo in vid. Demo. Demo KVM. So curse is equal to curse VT. Sleep. Delay. J comes with this thing. I think I wrapped it here though. Sleep equals sleep VT. I probably don't need to put that in VT. Did not do anything. FGC. FGC. I believe is now capital FG, right? FGC, no, it's FGC VT. Which is fine, because I only want that if we're... That was weird. I think the issue is my terminal is it's wrapping, yeah, so it's that next line. So that was my demo. It's splitting correctly, it's working correctly. All right, so probably everything is right. I don't know why the cursor was on. Oh, because it says that. And then so let's do that one more time. There we go. Okay, so that works. Demo is working. Everything's working. So that whole thing was all about render to blit. So get just change log readme vid render blit, or blit for both VT and vid. Render to blit for both VT. Whatever. Good enough. So 10 minutes. Do I have time to implement the last bit of this thing? Okay, so that is, what did I just do? I made it so that I could blit onto any surface. So now widget itself, oops, in UI, so instead of render, I need to call it stamp or blitter. Blitter, no, blit me, just blit as that. Does that make sense? I'm gonna call it stamp. I'm gonna call it draw on term, render to term, termdraw. Okay, so that will be. So render is how you render to a canvas. So first I need to create a canvas. So so just canvas buff is equal to what does buffer take? Is it height and width or width and height? So create init at so it's init at reverse. So come on. I should put a document there. Init get height and width. Yeah, so it takes the so nb width, height, conu buff vid. Okay, so width and height is literally that. Conu vid, and then co-destroy buff, and then I think that already returns 0. Let's co-destroy j. I think that already fails to return anything. Oh, well, I don't know. Just in case it doesn't, co-destroy buff. And then, so we're going to blit the buff at xy blit buff, and then push term. Is it push term? I believe it's push term. That should be push term. Push term buff pop term. Does it matter? Oh, no, it's this. So we push the term, then we render ourselves. Render y. NB y has focus. The same arguments has focus. Same arg as render. I think that's it. All right, so with that time to spare, with 7 minutes to spare, let's see if we can now go to, let's test this out by going to repl.ijs, and now where it says render TED, instead we're going to say termdraw TED. And termdraw ed. And these have, we're going to draw them at 3.0. To begin with. And in fact, if it's MJE, they should draw in the correct place for the history. So as the history grows, it should draw the thing. So let's see. First of all, let's just see if we have it working still for repl. So let's see cd to other directory. J repl ijs. I feel like that might not be the correct behavior. What? Okay. Okay. What is happening? Oh, so that should be setting the. All right, so okay, so when you render something, it should set the flag to 0 so that it doesn't render over and over and over again. But even if you're doing that over and over and over again, why isn't it rendering to the same place? All right, so now it's not rendering anything as I type. So this is a bug. So let's leave this as 1 to make it render and over and over again. But why is it not rendering to the right place? Okay. All right. Can I fix this bug in 4 minutes? I don't know, but I'm gonna try. I might go a few minutes over just to fix that, because that's ridiculous. Like, it's working, right? This is working, except for the fact that it's I'm not touching the keys. It looks like it's working fine when I'm typing. But when I stop typing, then the loop is causing it to render over and over again. Okay. So I guess, okay, so except render always draws unconditionally, so it's not like the flag is changing. Okay, so make this thing step app. The app is this. So the argument to app is this list of widgets, which is currently only one widget, so repl. So update, maybe we could say, okay, even if it's so it's a bug that it's drawing over and over and over again. So let's put this in here to do stop repl, set make sure r equals 0 on repl, maybe in update copy r from ed. That should solve that problem, and I could do that right now, but that would hide this other problem. What the heck is going on here? So in the render function, we should be initialized with a terminal that starts at 0, 0, right? By the time this is being called, we're being called by an application. We have a canvas to work on. We should be drawing to a should be drawing to. All right, it could be something. Where's widget? UI.js xy. Oh, xy blit buff. Render y. Just to make sure, I should comment this out, and this should not draw those subwidgets. So there's no drawing involved. Oh, I know why. Because okay, so now we're drawing it every time. So now in render, oh, hang on. Render cursor. Render cursor came from ed. so yeah. Let's test this. So J repl. Yeah, let's put that back on. Oh, come on. All right, now I'm just floundering here. In UI, IJS, I commented. Where did that go? Oh, yeah, okay. So we have the problem, and now I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to say, so app is still there. We still have app. We still have, app has a buffer that it draws to. So 00 blit VT, blit KVM, blit term, what? Names VT. No, it's not in VT, it's in vid, right? Vid. All right, so blit vid HW. HW blit vid B app. C app. A app. They should have a height and width. It's a buffer. It should have that. So if I'm passing that to what is so that this is working, but what is this? Is this meant to be also that? Do I have a bug in blit of vid? Vid.ijs. Right, so this is blit term. It has to be blit term of vid, right? And it doesn't let you do that, so co-insert KVM. This is messy. Term is VT. And blit term should exist. I made it. Oh, I see. So blit here needs to be in VT. Okay, so let's try that. So maybe that, well, okay, that wasn't actually my problem though, right? Term, co-insert KVM, so I get that. All right, that worked. All right, so now that I can blit a buffer to the terminal, I can type. I'm thinking that KVM somehow showed up earlier in the lookup history. The problem went away when I changed that name. So I think that probably the lookup history is the lookup path, the copath for the app, UI app KVM. Yeah. So it was. I think it was seeing Well, I was seeing blit here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what the problem is. So yeah. So well, the problem is that this when I didn't have VT here, I had this was overwriting the blit in the KVM namespace, which is supposed to be this. It's supposed to be this. And so it was always blitting to the terminal, even though it was meant to be blitting to a buffer. And so that's what happened. All right, so that made perfect sense now. This is not drawing correctly. This is slightly off. My cursor is slightly off, so that means something to do with the coordinates is slightly off. And could it be the render cursor part? Well, hang on. I think maybe the cursor is putting it in the wrong place. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I think, yeah, I think my cursor is, the cursor is somehow putting it off. So render cursor might be bad. Or, all right, so none of this is running because we're not in MJE at this moment. It is 9:07. I fixed the main problem, so we still have a slight bug with the position of the terminal, position of the cursor. So I guess I'm going to deal with that tomorrow because this stream is already an hour and 12 minutes. So I think I'm going to call it a day, at least for this stream. So tune in tomorrow, and thank you for watching.